Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I'm
howdy, loved ones. So Clobber is back again, and today I am really excited to be talking to my man Rob Sop. What's up, Rob?
hello everyone.
And today we're going to be discussing Lorne Armstrong as the ultimate lolcow.
And is he ever?
And for people who don't know what a lolcow is, this is the definition from Urban Dictionary.
Oh,
It,
official.
yeah, so you can't beat that. It's a person who you get extensive laughs from, who doesn't know that they're being made fun of. They can often think that they are being admired for what they are doing, but are secretly being laughed at constantly. I think that pretty much applies to Lauren, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, he might be like some kind of platonic ideal of that almost, because in fact, sometimes I wonder if he know not if he knows, like if he knows the everything that's going on in that context,
Mm-hmm.
but some of this stuff is just so out there in terms of suspension of disbelief or willful disbelief, and he's so obviously like the worst kind of fame whore
Yes.
that. But so I think Chris Chan kind of is too,
Mm-hmm.
but he does. I mean, I guess one thing I can give to Lorne is I know in the past he has begged for money, but he doesn't seem to do it quite as often as Chris.
Yeah, you're right. That's basically all Chris Chan does is beg for money. And I'll tell you, I think that the thing with Lorne is of the lolcows. I think that Lorne is probably the one who is most deserving of getting shit.
Getting shit. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like especially compared to somebody like Chris Chan, because he he is clearly autistic, or
Right.
has some kind of a low grade uh, disability. But once I think anyone who reaches a certain point of that bizarre kind of lust for fame or infamy from any, regardless of how it comes, uh, it becomes harder and harder to distinguish, at least for me, like where where the line would be for them
Mm-hmm.
with regard to like how, if this stuff actually reflects how they see themselves,
Yeah.
because with Lorne, I think that he's kind of this. To me, he's one of the reasons I'm so fascinated by this whole thing with him is he's almost this paradox, because he obviously hates himself in a very real way,
Right.
but at the same time, he's so his
Full of
his
himself.
grandiose, yeah, his grandiose notions about himself and his self-obsession and his narcissism kind of wash over that. And there have been times that I even kind of that I don't that I wonder to myself, does he really hate himself? But I mean, it seems I think he does. Maybe you can expound on that.
Yeah, you know what? Deep down, maybe he does, but if he does, I think it's more in his subconscious. I think that if you were to ask him, I think he really thinks he. I mean, he would like to think that he's a good guy and he actually
Oh yeah.
deserves to be famous and you know he's got all these great qualities. And I think that he wants to believe that, and maybe he's trying to convince himself of that. But I don't think. I think maybe in his subconscious he knows that what I'm kind of a douchebag, but it's just never it has never been brought to the forefront. I don't think.
Yeah, well, and it might be. I wonder too sometimes if it's even, especially from relative distance, and given that that seems to be the only way anyone knows Lauren, with
Yeah.
very few exceptions. Uh, that he's just so fake that in order to get a good feel for that, I think you would have to trust that someone was actually being sincere. And like every time that I think rage is his only real, of all of the extreme emotional reactions that he has to all these things and these calls, I think rage is the only one that I can trust in any way, because every time that he gets upset or cries about something, it's only to elicit sympathy or a response from the person he's talking to, mostly Ramona or Ember.
It's a manipulation tactic that he learned when he was a child.
Like I don't know if there's a single time that I've heard him be like crying like a little kid, and it seems real, because he'll just stop and go into flip to being angry, or it's just this kind of it's why I think that people like him are kind of maybe the most dangerous type of predator, because of their use of pathos and how they'll be pathetic in order to elicit sympathy, to defend themselves, and it works. I mean, you have all these random people who maybe don't know that much of the story, or just have heard a little bit, and on the surface what they hear is, oh, there's these bullies who are picking on this guy
I've heard
because
that.
of this thing that he did years ago. And I myself, when I first encountered some of this stuff, I felt that way too, for a short time, before you see more that he is doing, he is essentially never actually being victimized, but his whole worldview is based around being able to cast himself as a victim in any given interaction.
Yeah, and I think, you know what, honestly, I think I remember when there was the second interview, like he had done his interview with Ethan, and people were just like, fuck this guy, he hasn't changed a bit, because his first interview with Ethan was just excuses, and I never meant to do it. It was just the same mantra as he's been casting out for forever. But then he did a second interview with Ember, and at the time, I actually thought that, maybe this guy really is sorry, and maybe he did learn his lesson. But in subsequent interviews, and in particular a live stream that Ember did with him, I don't know, maybe a week or two later, he just went right back to his default settings. So it was clear that that second interview that either Ember told him to say that stuff, or he said it just so to make Ember happy. He didn't believe any of the stuff that he was saying. Again, he did it to elicit a reaction. He did it to get people off his back. He did it
It's all like play acting. It's not. Again, there's just nothing real about it. It's because he obviously doesn't think I do think that he, for the most part, believes that he didn't want to do it, and because of that means that the whole, that's this linchpin of his whole view about that situation that started all this for him, or at least for us with regard to him. But it makes me think of. There's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if you're familiar with the show.
I love the show.
Where they go on the fake Family Feud.
Yes, I do remember that.
And Dennis keeps saying, "This doesn't represent me," about all these different things. And that's kind of a classic psychopath thing.
Right. Yeah.
That whole notion of that. It doesn't matter what actually is me or what makes up me. It's just all about these facades that I can put on and what represents me. And I do think that Lorne is just this remarkably unintelligent psychopath, because usually a psychopath kind of has to have social intelligence, and Lorne, I suppose he has a type of charisma, but
Yeah, I would
he
say
can't.
that.
He doesn't blend. Yeah, because he can't. He's so bold faced with all this stuff. I mean, and I again, as many people have said about this notion, I think that's why he and has been known to target kids with those manipulations, because they're the most likely to fall for that shit.
Yeah.
Like an
Yeah.
adult isn't going to buy it.
Right. And he was trying it with Ember. He tried it with Ramona, and he didn't get any sympathy from either one of them. Which it used to work on his mom. It used to work on the people in his family maybe when he was a kid. But once you become an adult and you know what he's doing, you know that this is just a tactic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess that's kind of
Absolutely.
a characteristic of a lolcow is to have that.
Yeah, I think because a lack of some kind, whether it's an honest lack of self-awareness, or whether it's someone who just doesn't care, who is such a fame whore, has these delusions of grandeur like Lorne does. I think it's both. I mean, he definitely has a pretty remarkable lack of self-awareness, but he also thinks that, yeah, it makes sense to him that he's famous, or that he has fans, or
Yeah.
it adds up. There's no, which I suppose is sort of a kind of a lack of that self-awareness in and of itself. And I think you kind of need that. It's like, because otherwise the whole thing becomes very arch and postmodern, and it's just kind of like, you know uh, if someone is purposefully trying to ape that, again, yeah, I think there has to be some level of sincerity in there for it to truly be that lolcow type of thing. Because if there's not, then yeah, it is just more of, it loses a lot of the aspects of what make it funny, or what make it grotesque, or whatever it is that attracts people to it.
Right. And again, that sense of entitlement, that sense of grandiose, is evidence. I'm going to say with not only with Lorne, but I'll because he's the other lolcow that probably the most identifiable lolcow is Chris Chan.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could all agree on that. Lorne may be the most deserving of the title of like ultimate lolcow, but I think as of now the most recognizable one is
Yeah,
probably
he's
Chris
not his.
Chan.
He's only. Yeah, I think Chris Chan's circle of influence, or whatever, is larger. Yeah, I think it stretches out further than just.
Yeah, but Chris Chan has the same thing. Lorne thought he could sell his journal for $20 a page, his
Mhm.
guitar for $1,000, a cassette tape for $1,000,
Yeah.
and now I don't know if you follow Chris Chan too much, but every video it's an e-begging video where he's
Uh,
charging $100 for like this ratty ass blanket that
yeah.
supposedly his mom. I don't even know if his mom made it. If it's just some shit that they had lying around the house.
Yeah, and it almost doesn't matter. I mean, if in a way, it's almost more appropriate for the lolcow that it would just be some bullshit that he pulled out of the bottom of the closet,
Right.
because of that, yeah, entitlement and grandiosity, and that, yeah, like, of course Lorne thinks someone would pay any meaningful amount of money for his blank tape that
Yeah.
he's a cappella singing Garth Brooks songs, or who knows what, like,
Right.
of course he thinks that that's a reasonable notion. uh
And of course they have to autograph it too. That's they always
mhm.
make a point of saying, "Oh, it's going to be autographed." Like you have to be pretty
Yeah,
full of yourself to think that like your autograph is going to, be
yeah,
worth something. You know what I mean?
as if anyone gives a shit, like, uh but yeah, it's a huge part of what kind of appealed to me, or what fascinated me about Lornography, and this whole, just everything about him, is that he has that, and it goes so deep. It's so, and I mean, like, where do you think it comes from in his case? Like, what could have happened? What in his past, or like, how has anything ever reinforced that in his life? You know, it seems like for the most part, his life has just kind of flown in the face of that.
You mean reinforced, like the sense of entitlement, the sense of
yes,
like,
yes, that his exactly.
I think when you have a church named after, because I really think that he thought that the Church of Cawd was a group of people who were his fans. He thought like they were really his followers, and I think he led himself to believe that, like, you know, these people are on the edge of their seat waiting for me to, you know, come down from the mountain and impart my wisdom or sing songs, or that these people really like me and they want to hear like whatever bullshit I want to, you know, put out there.
No, you're right. You're right. I think.
I think, you know, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just had to.
I think that we may have created that monster a little bit, because, you know, obviously we did. We called it the Church of Cawd. We called him our Lord and Savior, the one true Son of Cawd. You know, we refer to him in these, like, you know, biblical sort of terminology. And, you know,
and in a very real way,
right?
You know, he can't exist in that way without us, or without, you know, that kind of feedback, regardless of whether it's actually of its intent. But yeah, it makes so much sense to me now, having, you know, learned a lot more about Lorne and about this whole saga, that yes, of course he would think that it was a bunch of supporters and well-wishers and quote fans. It's the same thing, I guess, that enables him to think like, yeah, sure, this hot 24-year-old girl actually likes me or wants to date me, or
why,
you know,
Michelle Simpson from the comment room, as he called it, is like all about him and all that stuff. That he has all these. He even says in one of the calls, you know, I can just get one of these girls from my comment section. You know, and every one of them is trolling
without a hint of, there's nothing arch about it. It's and again, it's another part of the paradox, because maybe that is one of the few things about him that isn't fake, is his regard for himself. His regard for himself is not fake, but virtually everything else that about him, you know, what he wants to represent him is completely manufactured and flimsily, shoddily so. You know, it's like another kind of childlike, where the way that he tries to lie, like the lies that he chooses to tell, where it's like, man, why? Like, you're lying about something for which there's like blatant evidence to refute it, but you do it anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I just played the call last Sunday where he was on the phone with Ramona, and she asked if Roy was there, and he said, no, that's the radio.
Yeah.
When he was clearly talking to somebody. You know, I mean, why do you need to lie about everything? You know what I mean?
And that he thinks that, because in order to maybe it's difficult to say this because we're talking about Lorne, and he is obviously kind of a unicorn or something in his horrible way.
Yeah.
But, you know, for you or I or most people, if you're going to lie about something, you would have some reasonable expectation that it was going to work.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That it, you know, that you weren't like trying to tell someone the sky is green, you know.
And the funny thing about it is he always mentions that he's he's honest about everything and he hasn't lied
Mm-hmm.
since he was 11 years old and stuff.
Yep.
And it's like he says that stuff like right after lying. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like sandwiched in between two lies that are completely implausible and that are sort of disproven by really obvious stuff. Yeah, it's fascinating. I it's not something that I can relate to too many other things. I mean, yeah, Chris Chan is certainly similar. It's certainly in the same ballpark. But even in his case, I think like, and again, I think you probably know more about him than I do, but based on what I do know, it seems like I can almost, some of his drives or something make a little bit more sense to me than Lorne. Yeah, like you're saying, you know, are you lying just to do it? You know, are you just, or because you have this bizarre like the confidence of a psychopath, where you think you can, where you think like, yeah, I'll just lie, and you know, in before the Church of Cawd, like, it just makes me wonder if when he was younger, if if he just had sort of ultimate baby of the family syndrome, and he just was kind of allowed to get away with all that shit. And,
I think he clearly has, and that's why he expects the crying to work, because I think that it always had in the past, and now he can't understand why it's not working. You know what I mean?
yeah, and he gets angry
Right.
when it you know, like when he's with the lie that he tells, the example you pointed out about, you know, Roy being there and saying it's the radio. He gets angry when she says like, well, so, you know, oh, the radio asks if I'm a gold digger, whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't even try to cover it up or to get, you know, no, and it's his shamelessness. Like, I guess that's another paradox that maybe you need to have in order to be this kind of lolcow, is you have to be, he's so obsessed with his image and how people see him, but at the same time he's so totally shameless about the things that he'll do or say. Even I mean, when he's drunk, it's obviously a
he has
million
no
times
filter.
worse. but even when he's not, he'll still, he maybe won't be as blatant about it, but he'll still do it, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of a non sequitur, or just a little like footnote, but anytime I listen to the calls where he's really drunk, I'm always taken with how often he actually says duh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I've ever heard anyone really do that. Like,
No,
but will just duh. He will just stay duh.
Yeah, he does, man. You're right. You know, well, here's the thing. Like, Chris Chan is definitely a douchebag. There's no denying that. But I think he's a little bit more in the level, in the realm of reality than Lorne is. I mean, while like, I don't know, a lot of people probably think Sonichu is fucking stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
at least it's like, you know, it's not, he's not going to like Nashville and going to country western bars at the age of 36 to make it in country music.
No.
I mean, he's making this little cartoon in his room and
Yeah.
putting it out on the internet. Like, I think his delusions of grandeur, and he does have delusions of grandeur for sure. I mean, obviously, I mean, but
Yes.
they're not the same as Lorne. And I think Lorne's, even before like the whole Church of Cawd stuff, I think it was always kind of embedded in him, because I mean, why else go to Nashville with no money and sleep on the floor and expect to make it in country music, you know?
No, that's a very good point, actually, because yeah, like, I think that Chris Chan, he not only would be satisfied or has been satisfied, I suppose, but also sort of even he kind of understood, like, yeah, his artwork and his little, fantasy world, or, just all the weird stuff that he tries to market, or his artwork. He has this understanding that, like, people that people will like this, but it's a relatively small group of people. And, because I have YouTube and the internet, I can reach those people.
Yeah.
And maybe he's right, but it's, like 10 people. It's not the 10,000 that are mostly mocking him.
Right.
But Lorne, yeah, he clearly, I mean, he moved to Nashville and didn't have a plan really outside of not only making it in country music, but that the way he was going to do it was just to go to karaoke bars.
Yeah, and get discovered.
Yeah, that is so far beyond, like, drawing pictures and thinking that, people might want to buy it, because you're totally right, because that's just a quantum leap of self-regard and delusion, even beyond Chris Chan, who has other reasons, other things about him, and I think maybe some other ways that he's been reinforced by his fandom or his community, that would almost, I would almost get it if his aspirations were bigger, but or at least more so than with Lorne, I guess, just only compared to Lorne.
Oh, definitely, and more realistic than Lorne's for sure.
Yeah,
he's not trying to be like a movie star. He's not trying to be like a he knows he's not going to be Seth MacFarlane. You know what I mean?
Right.
He knows that, this is just something that he draws, and he likes doing it, and whatever.
Other anime fan man children, or bronies or whatever would maybe be into it, and he's probably in some way, I'm sure he's not wrong.
I'm sure there are some people who aren't. I mean, he does have a Patreon, and he gets like $350 a month from that Patreon. So,
and so far as I know, he doesn't seem to be, Chris Chan, that is, doesn't seem to have, and maybe there's some things I don't know and you can school me, but he doesn't seem to have any, like, if he's ripped people off, it's been more just in the way that internet beggars, like, offer shoddy bullshit for too much money, but that's kind of baked into the cake of internet begging. Whereas Lorne obviously has some more malice of forethought, where he will, I couldn't say no to anyone, so I took this job and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just ripped off,
that's a good point. I think to join that, like, together, I would say that Lorne would be the kind of guy who would sell his guitar on eBay for $1,000 and purposely not ship it and just, like, steal the $1,000.
Yeah.
Whereas Chris Chan would be the kind of guy who would sell his, like, shitty blanket on eBay for $100, or let's say.
But he'll send you the blanket.
He'll send it, but, like, if he doesn't send it, it's just because, like, he's fucking a space cadet, and I forgot. It's not, like, malicious. It's just like, he's just like a fucking dumbass. Like, he's just lazy. He'll send it, and it's not malicious.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I mean, and getting back to another point is, or another one of these characteristics of, like, a lolcow is this refusal to take any kind of advice or help, or I can't tell you how many times I've read the comment section, not just of Lorne, but Chris Chan's comment section is basically "get a job." It's pages and pages of "get a job, Chris." I mean, and God knows I've left that comment on his channel a number of times too. But there are people in these comment sections that are trying to help him. And the way Lorne is so antagonistic with any kind of advice. Andrew always brought up this like Lorne was selling his stupid journal for whatever, $20 a page or whatever ridiculous fucking price it was. And Andrew had sent him a letter on eBay saying, you know what, why don't you just send it to Betty and she have her sell it. And of course, like Lorne, smarter than everybody else, is like, stop crying about it or whatever the fuck he said, and I'll do whatever the fuck I want. So, you do have people in these comment sections, and specifically Lorne, who are trying to give him good advice, but he's just too, like, this ego that he has where he doesn't need advice from some asshole on the internet, that he's smarter than all of us, and he'll do what he wants when he wants to do it. And I think that's also a big characteristic of lolcows, because I mean, Chris Chan just basically ignores I don't even think he reads the comments, because if he did,
he doesn't seem to.
No, he really doesn't, because like it's the most terrible shit is written on there. Lorne for a time was blocking, like he blocked me 3 times.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. So he was reading the comments, but obviously, and most of it, most of the comments were, go fuck yourself, kitty fiddler, and all that kind of stuff. But were legitimate people who were, trying to help him, to try to like set him on some kind of correct path. But with these guys, and it might go back to their idea of self, their grandiose personality. They don't need help from some, fucking idiot on the internet. Right. No matter how practical or intelligent that this help might be, they're not going to take it.
Yeah, because like I agree. I think that's a very good point, a good insight about the whole nature of the lolcow, and maybe sort of illustrates again a way that Chris Chan and Lorne differ, where Chris Chan's reasons for ignoring the comments or for not reading the comments, I think if it's I think that he's lazy, and that's pretty obvious.
Could be, yeah.
But the real, I think that what's really at the center of it is that he doesn't want to shatter his imaginary world with having to deal with to be confronted with how many people who are watching his videos are, even if they're not making fun of him, if they are just, like get a job or just saying whatever, being more kind of practical or something. Whereas for Lorne, it is a much like the narcissism that's inherent in it, to me, is a lot more kind of insidious in a way, where, it is like, I do know better about all these situations. I'm the only one that like has all the facts about this stuff.
Yeah, right.
Nobody else knows anything about it. And so because of that, I can just kind of tune out everything that everyone else is saying. And if somebody makes a point that maybe rattles my cage a little bit, I'll block them and just tell myself that they're a troll. Because I don't know if he even knows what a troll is. Like,
no, it doesn't seem it. Doesn't seem so.
That a troll is somebody who's telling him something he doesn't want to hear.
Right. I think he thinks a troll is just anybody being negative, and when in reality the negative is actually realistic. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He sees it as negative, but like in the real world, not in Lorne's world, it's actually realistic, this advice that he gets. And but again, if it's critical of him in any way, he's not gonna follow it. He's not gonna listen to it. It just it just rolls right off him. And
and it's like this baseless. It's like someone, if it's something he doesn't want to hear, it's 100% of the time it's just somebody talking out of school, or somebody, or like a hater, like or something like.
Well, I honestly, I don't know that Chris Chan even is like in charge of his channel anymore. So I don't even know if he is getting the comments. From what I understand, I mean, and I could be wrong. I think he has like a handler, somebody. I think he has like a buffer of somebody, sort of like how Lorne had with Ember when he started the Lorne's
Right.
Buddy channel, a couple years ago.
When he had no choice, yeah.
Yeah, and he had to deal with those comments, although he couldn't get he didn't have internet access at the time, so people just like said whatever, and Ember wasn't going to delete it because I think she thinks that Lorne needed to hear the stuff, and it didn't really matter.
No, no, but even then, even in those early calls that I've heard that have been, that at least the ones that are relatively public, even then, when the sort of catfishing is a little bit more, it's as proactive as it ever gets. For what I've heard, it's like the early ones have by far the most like honey potting or whatever. But even then, she'll say things like, oh yeah, people will say like, you tried to have sex with this kid and you showed your dick to her and that's terrible. And she'll like, she doesn't do it in as confrontational a way as eventually people do. But even then, that's being said, and it's like it doesn't even register with, like, he doesn't, if he says anything about it at all, he just is like, oh well, yeah, it's just good finally somebody knows what's going on, or somebody like wants to hear the real story. And that, I think you also kind of need that from a lolcow. You kind of need that that, as we've said, the kind of lack of awareness, the massively inflated sense of self, or the narcissism, and then also this ability, kind of an uncanny ability to just sort of like deflect all of the anything, whether you're doing it Chris Chan style where you just kind of tune it out, or it just all you just don't even look at it, or you're more Lorne style where I've read a handful of some of the more confrontational comments from some of his older videos, and he'll try to like respond. He'll try to either have a little comeback, which are always weird as hell.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Or he'll just say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a dumbass." Whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, I've gotten a few of those replies from some of my comments. So, and then that was the same thing with the live stream. People would just like, people were trolling him, and he just we were dumbasses, and we didn't know what we were talking about, and it was not even troll, but like say Lorne, I don't think you need to be on the internet, or Lorne, you need to stay away from these girls that you haven't met, and I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. God damn it.
Yeah,
and
of course they honestly like me.
Yeah, of course they do. And I mean, Chris Chan had the same thing with those sagas, the Jule and the Casey and all those things. I mean, he honestly thought that those people like him, and to some degree, I don't know that. Chris Chan was, and even Lorne. I don't think like these catfishes. It's my firm belief that they were not set up, designed to fuck with them, really. I really think that Ember and Ramona had good intentions when they set about this. This.
Oh no, I completely agree, because they give him, like, Ramona gives him countless outs, or or like opportunities to see through it, or to and you know, and then there are other times where she just sort of comes out and tells him, like, I'm just trying to help you. I'm not, you know, I don't want to marry you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even, you know, like, I think Ember, like, people again who are more on the periphery and maybe are only aware of the more kind of bombastic stuff
Hmm.
where she is very confrontational. There is a lot where, yeah, I mean, she, you know, to me, what both of them are doing in a way is maybe trying to, and apparently, like, obviously we don't know Lorne's treatment team. Maybe they're very good at their jobs. I
Doesn't
don't
seem
know.
like it, though, does it?
Yeah, it does not, because he he's come away from his whole experience with, you know, his clinicians thinking that the role, and he says it countless times to Sam when Sam is playing the therapist, and he said, you know, he comes away from all that thinking that that a therapist's job is to be a sounding board who, like, lets you vent and makes you feel good about yourself, and that's it. And
Right.
it's like, okay, that's part of what a therapist or what a counselor is going to do, is supposed to do, but
Yeah. I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there's supposed, yeah, there has to be some kind of confrontation, some kind of, you know, it's about getting someone to face something or to confront something that they're unable or unwilling to on their own. And he's, because clearly never done that, or never been, you know, by any of these clinicians. And Ember and Ramona, if they were trying to do, and Sam too, I mean, again, in a confrontational kind of way, but clearly that was the only, it was the only way that it was going to get through. But it was easy for him to just, again, make himself a victim and just, oh, you're picking on me, you're just, you know, that. And you know, honestly, since I know that field, that's kind of my where I operate, that, you know, the sort of psychotherapy area, mental health. And
Hmm.
I believe there's a very widespread opinion that psychopaths are just kind of, the talk therapy just doesn't do anything for them. If
Yeah.
anything, there's some evidence that it's counterproductive, that it just helps them to hone their skills at manipulation. And I do think that Lorne is a psychopath, because he doesn't have any empathy. He doesn't have his ability to try to understand, and it's, again, it's part of what makes him a lolcow, because he can't, his lack of awareness, I think, is sort of rolled into his lack of empathy and his inability to really or to care about understanding. You know, even with Ramona, the only way that he'll, quote, understand what she's saying is in this very narrow, specific role in which he has cast her, and
Yeah.
outside of that, he's not going to have any truck with it.
Right. And you know, just about the therapy thing, and you bring up a good point. I don't know, and again, I don't know. This might be she might be the greatest therapist in the world. I don't know, but from it's my understanding that Lorne started receiving this therapy or counseling when he was incarcerated,
Mm-hmm.
and has been in it ever since. So you're talking about, 10, 11 years of
Yeah.
counseling this guy's been in, and I don't know that he definitely hasn't gotten better, and it could be
No.
argued that he might be worse now. Of course, we
Yeah.
don't know how he was, prior to the sting.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly all be assumption and supposition, but he is so, like, I don't know, shallow, that I think he was more or less the same. He was even, I think he was probably even less self-aware. Um, if you know, it seems kind of impossible
Yeah,
given where he is and where he's been for the past 10 years. But yeah, you know, because of all the people, of all the guys who got caught in all those TCAP stings, he is blindsided. I mean,
oh yeah,
he he thought that this was going down. Like, he did not have despite, we're all familiar with the myriad of doubts that he should have had
Right.
based on a million different things.
Yes.
But no, it seemed he was rounding third, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, and the only thing that the only time he even like acknowledged that there might be something amiss is, I thought you had blonde hair. Other than that, he was, that was Kayla, and he was, the wedding was already in the works, and
Yep.
they were their life together was about to start, and yeah,
Yeah,
you're right, man. When Chris Hansen came out, it was like, of all the predators, I mean, most of them, almost all of them, were obviously surprised, and
yeah. Like but I think a lot of them like thought, oh, it's her dad, or
or a cop, or
or it's just a cop, and so more of maybe surprised that they were going to be put on this television show.
for sure, yeah.
But many of them seemed not all that surprised that it wasn't actually a kid that was going to meet them for this rendezvous. And even in the holy Lornography in the chat too, there's it's like I think I remember on one of the first times that I listened to a wine lover stream, that it was listening to one of the earlier Ramona calls, and I just kept thinking, like, man, he is basically just catfishing himself. I mean, he is doing like 85-90% of the work of a catfish here, and really all that anyone, a woman particularly, but all that at least a woman has to do to quote catfish him is give him the slightest, just 3 little breadcrumbs that he will turn into a trail.
Oh, for sure, man. And that's the thing. You just have to have, you basically just have to have a voice and be present. You know what I mean? For him to just kind of like, and he'll just take it from there. So like, as long as you're sound somewhat female, and again, like, the call that where Mike V was Nathanielette, and then
which is that too. That is crazy.
Yeah,
go ahead.
That he fell for that. And you just think that, like, I mean, what won't this guy fall for?
And not only did he fall for it, but he like filled in blanks.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. He decided
he kind of took the narrative past what Mike or Ember were telling him. It was like he was in on it in some bizarre way. Like, if I could ever talk to either of them, I would like, was there any point during that whole thing where you started to have these kind of like, little paranoid notions, like, just because there were times, particularly in that call with Mike V and with Ember, with all the Natalie weirdness, where they're not even lying to him. He is taking one little part of the story and extrapolating the rest about the voice changer, and
right, and they just run with it.
Yeah, like you say, they just have to show up. I mean, they obviously there are other points where, not to take anything away from them. I mean, they were very good at what they were doing, better than I would be. But but yeah, he's again just this kind of ultimate lolcow thing, that he will do a little bit of the heavy lifting when it comes to his, to what makes him a lolcow.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and I mean, I guess Chris Chan kind of does the same thing, just not to that degree. But yeah, Chris Chan will also kind of like fill in those gaps, as he did in the Casey saga, and basically all the sagas that. But yeah, not like Lorne, that's for sure.
And with Chris Chan, I think you can see like. It doesn't surprise me that he does that, because his fantasy world, his little world, his universe of Sonichu, or his little town, is so fleshed out. Like
Mm-hmm.
his fantasy world is so robust that it kind of doesn't surprise me that he extends that to other aspects of his lolcowness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, he too, like Lorne, wants to believe. Like the wolf ticket that they're both buying is a tempting one, because obviously they're both, casting themselves as these lovesick Romeos, and so they're kind of getting ostensibly getting their ultimate goal if they believe this stuff, or if they're more willing to believe it. But in both of their cases, they're doing that. But yeah, I wonder if they're kind of again approaching it in a slightly different way, or if maybe it's just manifesting in a different way to us, to the viewers.
Yeah. 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 No, I think I think that's a good point. And then it's again it's this ego that I'm Lorne Armstrong. I should be getting 24 hot 24-year-olds. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
And it
makes sense.
That's one of the things about lolcows that I think attracts people. It's this delusion. I think every lolcow has this delusion. It doesn't even matter who you're talking about. You could be talking about Dark Side Phil, or you could be talking about for some reason they're not springing to mind, Amberlynn Reed or whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
But they all have this delusion that they are celebrities and that they should be treated in a way that is not even respectful. It should be like you should be like in awe of these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
it's not even like I'm good at this thing, and because of that, or I perceive myself to be good at this, whatever, at singing, or at art or what have you.
Right.
I perceive myself to be good at this, and so because of that, I deserve attention. It's like, no, I deserve, like, I am, to Lorne, it's like he is Garth Brooks. He just hasn't been given he just needs the stage. Like, that's it. That's the only difference between him and his various country idols, is he just hasn't had the opportunity. Luck, I think, to him, I think that's all it is.
Bad luck.
That's the only thing. Yeah. Bad luck / not having as much good luck as his whoever he would say his idols are.
Right. Well, and that was even he even expressed that in I don't know if you heard it, but there was a phone call that he had with Crestfallen, where Crestfallen was asking him if he was a country singer and whatever, and he said Crestfallen asked if he was on TV, and Lorne said, yeah, but a bad show. And then Crestfallen said something like, were you on American Idol? and Lorne, with like all sincerity, said, no, but I could have been, or so he really believed, and maybe he could have been, but he would have been.
Yeah, but he would have
round.
been a lolcow of that show, where they show, like, look at this deluded, like, they, if they even still do that anymore. I mean, I assume they do. But that back in the day when that started, that was like, most of I think people would watch it in the beginning, like, that's really the only time I would watch the show, would be just in the beginning, to see the people that would, right.
Yeah.
But particularly the bad ones who thought they were good,
right,
and were like shocked when they were given this, negative feedback.
Yes.
As he would have been, and he would have just kind of, he would have just, oh, well, they just don't know. Simon Cowell's just gay, so, whatever.
Yeah, right. And had he become famous that way, imagine how big the ego would be.
Oh my God, it would be the perfect storm. Like, even if he became like William Hung,
yeah,
even if Lorne got William Hung famous, oh man, and he would be the most horrible kind of, quote, celebrity for
Oh my
people to
God.
deal with.
Oh my
If
God.
if he achieved any, oh yeah, it would be a true nightmare. I mean, yeah, like service industry type people. Oh yeah, he would be the one who would be like, if he, and yeah, if he had money, if Lorne did have, like, screw you money, he would
Mm,
be the worst type of rich person like that. But
yes.
I don't think it could ever happen because he's so dumb and he's such a sucker that if
Right.
he had anything, they would be like lining up to whatever grift him out of it in any way. What if you get him into an MLM scheme?
Right. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing like lolcows do is like they are so fucking bad with money. And like Lorne obviously like he gets a little bit of money and like Lorne's the kind of guy who will get a credit card with $1,000 limit. Well, actually, he had one with a $300
Three
limit that
hundred
he was,
dollar limit, baby.
yeah. But like, just for the sake of example, he'll be the kind of guy who, because I heard Crestfallen say this, he'll be the guy that gets a credit card with $1,000 limit, and he'll think that he has $1,000. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It doesn't register to him that he has to pay this back. And Chris Chan does the same thing. You know, it's funny because like on the one of the comments on the newest Chris Chan, the blanket video, like the Barb's begging for, please buy my blankets off of eBay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody in the comments is like, I think we're only 6 months away from where, because the thing is, like, she was begging for, she's saying buy these blankets so we can buy food. And somebody in the comments said, how come you know that in 6 months she's gonna be selling something else so that she could buy blankets, because that's just the way it is with these guys. It just goes around and around with these guys.
Yeah, and particularly I think in those examples, it's hard to, because I know that that Chris Chan was like begging for money to pay for what he claimed was like medicine for his mother, but then he just would spend it all on toys and whatever other
Legos and
garbage he
video.
buys.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so but again, I think that is like as we kind of touched on before with Chris Chan, I think that's maybe the closest he would come to really truly using people, like, or ripping someone off. Like lying about what the money is for, or even, I don't know, maybe if he's not lying and he's it's supposed to be for that, but that's not what he spends it on, that's kind of on him and his mother.
Mm-hmm.
But if I think he might say, oh, please give money for food, give money for medicine, and then spend it on bullshit, whereas Lorne will like not send, like you said, not send the item, or or just like totally go back on whatever agreement, just like he would also, I think, be the type who, if there were action on items that he put on eBay, then and something sold, but he wasn't pleased for the amount for which it sold, he would just like, no, just not gonna,
you're not
regardless of whether the person paid for it or not.
Right. And one of the things that Lorne brought up in when he was selling this crap was, okay, well, this money is not going to be for me. It's going to be to, pay Betty back.
And Wounded Warrior and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And all that stuff. But I mean, realistically, do we think that Betty or Wounded Warrior or the fire department or whatever the fuck he was,
hell no.
They wouldn't have gotten a dime.
No way.
Yeah. So, Chris Chan, while he does beg for money and then, use it on stupid shit, I mean, the reason he's begging for money is, and what he does with it is a little bit more like legit than what Lorne is doing. Lorne is looking for people to basically bail him out of this debt that he incurred with with Betty.
That's a good point. That's true. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what Chris Chan is doing is just not that different from what thousands of other YouTubers and, you know, other internet people who have a presence, you know, like maybe they're not quite as over the top, or, you know, it's not as frequent, but it's a pretty common thing. And, you know, they're maybe not always trying to play on sympathy or anything like that, but it's not that far removed from just, you know, what you're a YouTuber that you like, who is trying to make money and maybe has trouble monetizing videos, just like at the beginning and at the end and in the middle of every video dropping some little thing about it.
And you know what? I for one don't have a problem with
Oh no,
people doing that.
I don't either. I mean, I totally get it. It doesn't, it doesn't bother me at all. And I think that's maybe why it's a little easier. Like, it's a little easier for me to accept the way, you know, like, yes, Chris Chan is way too, like, he does it all the time, especially now. And he does it in kind of needy, you know, more kind of, you know, emotionally manipulative ways.
Right,
but
for sure.
It's
and
not
as his mother out there.
Yeah, and that definitely does suck. But yeah, he's not begging for money on the internet in order to pretend to pay back someone that he ripped off in real life.
Right. Yeah, this isn't a debt for a crime that he actually committed. And you know, Betty has always said, and when the interview first was being talked about, and they were talking about, you know, Lorne insisted that he get paid for it. And, you know,
really?
Yes, he insisted that he get paid for it.
Of course he did.
Not a soul was willing to donate a fucking dime for that. And then Ember had to basically set him straight and say, you know what, Lorne, no one's going to pay a sex offender to hear a sex offender talk. I mean,
yeah,
if there's going to be money, you know, we'll give it to Betty, you know, but
yeah,
not for
even if there were money, it's definitely not going to you.
Right. And there was money. A lot of people did donate, and you know, what happened to it is, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that whole thing is it is very sad.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, he initially was like basically he was doing this like
an
a
appearance
celebrity.
Fee.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It was an appearance fee. It was you know, an audience with the great Lorne Armstrong, and it's going to cost you $1,000 or whatever the price was.
And then I'll make another little fucking $20 money order that I'll send, and yeah, like, you know, she'll have to spend half that in gas driving to wherever the nearest fucking Walmart is.
Exactly.
Cash in this money order that I'm, you know, writing for nothing for. Yeah, okay, I'm 1/1000th of the way to paying you back.
Right. And it's been 15 years, and
she, it seems like she's accepted that it's never going to happen.
Of course she has.
But again, it's what makes all that money order stuff so much more fucking crass, is that it doesn't, like, the notion of him actually paying her back or her being you know, getting recompense of any kind is so far gone. That ship has sailed and come back and sailed again.
Yeah.
But he still does it only so he can make a video of it, and in this way where he's like throwing it in your face, you know, where he's like, and kind of her face too, like, I hadn't seen some of those videos, and it's one of the only times recently that any of his, you know, content, any Lorne content, because it'll make me, like, I'll definitely find myself like talking to no one out loud sometimes. But that that made me angry, you know, where he's like, oh, well, she's, you know, she's just got a big mouth and she's, you know, blah, blah. She's airing all the dirty laundry. So here's, you know, $40.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, how, like, who, what, it's so far beyond just like general assholer. And he's so petty. Like, he the whole thing with the macaroni and the meatballs, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's ridiculous. It's a completely ridiculous notion. But I remember I was listening to some of that stuff when I was first discovering this with a friend of mine, and his like we were both kind of blown away with like, so you're using this as your excuse for trying to like rape a kid, but
Yes, amazing,
but
right?
after we kind of got over the initial shock of that, my friend was like, "Man, is this like the pettiest guy who's ever lived?" Like
Yeah,
he is saying that he's like estranged from his brothers and sisters because they didn't give him food after he went after he did gave what he says is a Christmas present.
right.
So I went and did this stuff, or I
And
bought
we
this stuff for you as a present, and you didn't give me this petty tribute. Ugh.
and we don't even know if they had asked to. It could have been, and it's very likely a case of Lorne just going over, doing all this
Yeah,
bullshit
trust it.
work,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, because
saying, "Okay, you owe me $700 now,
totally.
or just
Oh
give me
man,
mac and
you
cheese."
know what? Yes, honestly, I had never really thought of it that way, but now that you say that, it makes so much sense because he would like that. Just seems like such a Lorne thing to do. I mean, like, yeah, because again, to hear him tell it, and I'm sure that it's at least 40% or so bullshit because it's Lorne,
Right.
but to hear him tell it, there was a time that he was so flush and he was making all this money. And so, of course, like, I think it was a way for him to kind of, oh man, I can see it all so clearly, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this work on your house because, I'm like a success. And then and then to expect this like appreciation. But I'm such a big guy. Like, I'm so not petty. I'm such a magnanimous guy that I'm just going to say, oh no, just give me some macaroni and cheese sometime,
Right. Yeah.
and then when you don't do it, you bring that up years later in reference to something. It doesn't. It makes it's so insane that it makes like Lorne sense. It like
Exactly. And it's the fact that he came up with that as his reason for doing what he did. Like, of all the things he could like think of all the problems that he's had in his childhood or whatever, the best he can come up with was,
yeah.
I didn't get mac and cheese and I didn't get meatballs. And really, did you really expect any other kind of revelation from Lorne at that point?
No, because man, you're totally right. Because it would be just like, it would obviously also be a worthless sentiment, but it would almost be more like if he just said, I was new in town, I didn't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's like, yeah, that sucks, and you're still like a piece of shit. But that makes at least 10% more sense than saying this bizarre tale about meatballs and eggs, and it turning your head around, and he can't even describe it in any more specific terms. It's that, yeah, these three instances, but he'll always say, oh, it was so many years of that shit, but
Yeah.
those are the only examples he will ever give. Like, if this actually was all these years of bad treatment, at some point you think he would have, and he would have, because he would have thrown up, in Ramona's face or their face or whoever, just to have this more evidence for his bizarre viewpoint. But he doesn't do that, which makes me think that there's nothing there.
Right. No, that. And then it's getting back to the Betty thing. I'll say that, like, and she knows this, and we all know this, that the only reason he's doing this is to shut people up.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, Ember is actually making him do this stuff. I mean, Ember is making him do the right thing.
Applying, sort of acting as the mouthpiece of this community to apply pressure.
Right, because he's clearly not doing this because he feels some kind of a debt, some kind of remorse.
No, you're totally right.
He's doing this to shut us up. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only reason
and
he's doing
this
it.
doesn't represent me. It doesn't be ripping off this lady and her husband and not refusing to pay them back doesn't represent me. What does is that I I just didn't have the money, but now I've only got a little, so I'll only give a little, and yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's basically the Lorne MO with
Yeah,
everything. I mean, it's he has this selfishness that is and this he's only it seems everything he does for himself, even when it comes back to like paying Betty back. Well, he's
yes.
doing that because he wants to
Hmm.
shut us up. It seems that every action that he takes is something that will just if it doesn't benefit him, then he doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, and that's his narcissism, his self obsession and delusion, and his lack of empathy that he doesn't, because he like when it's I think it's also kind of exemplified by in one of those calls where Ramona kind of accuses him of only crying and being all upset about her, what pressing him about the sting, that he's only crying about it and he's only sad about it that he got caught.
Right.
That if he hadn't gotten caught and if he had been able to do what he thought he was going to do, that he wouldn't be reflecting upon that.
No.
And be like, oh, this is so, like, even questioning himself, is this a bad thing that I've done? Never mind actually trying to confront that, but even asking himself that question. And he clearly wouldn't, because it's so easy for him to kind of let himself off the hook for it, or to just explain it away with nothing.
Yeah.
With there's many times for anyone, maybe like whenever I've regretted something, sometimes I have maybe even had a kind of legitimate reason, like a drive, or I can upon reflection, I can look back and say, okay, this is a thing that I did or a thing that I said that I regret, but these are the reasons that I did it or said it.
Yeah.
And while that doesn't make it okay, but he doesn't even need a real thing. He can just plug in anything.
Yeah.
He can plug in meatballs and just it's almost like he's pulling this shit out of a hat.
Yeah.
And he just plugs in whatever random thing he sort of conjures up, and that's fine. That gets him through the day. That, and not only that, but it makes him feel like he should be vindicated. That
Right.
I've got all this information. I'm gonna prove I'm wrong. Whatever.
Well, and it's fine for him, but the problem is when he tries selling this load of bullshit to us.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that like he thinks that he's smarter than all of us, and that like he's gonna throw this story about macaroni and cheese and meatballs out there, and all's gonna be forgiven, and no one dare question it, because I'm speaking from the heart. And when it blew up on his face, he was blindsided by it. He was like, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Mm-hmm.
I poured my heart out. I told this intimate detail of my life about not getting mac and cheese, and now people are
No,
making
man, you're
videos
right.
about mac and cheese, and like I'm getting destroyed in the comment section.
Yeah, I've never really considered that angle of it either. That he does think that that it is this notion that anyone will buy, and that he's was like surprised when people didn't buy it, and that his way of seeking vindication for that is to like, oh, I was honest. I poured my heart out, and it's like, yeah, and he fucking believes it. And maybe that kind of that weird ability, those mental gymnastics, is like needed to be a lolcow like this. That you have to be able to perform these mental gymnastics to like in South Park, where Cartman is always convincing himself how awesome he is and how he's always right. It's sort of like that same kind of notion, except Lorne is so dumb that he can't even concoct like a plausible or a reasonable narrative to get there. He just, throws in whatever. And then when people don't believe it, it's because, a person with a good heart like me. It's like,
And I think that goes back again. It's to the essential trait of a lolcow is this. It goes right back to this delusion, this idea of that. My followers are going to they're going to listen to what I have to say, and it'll make perfect sense to them, and they'll back off. And Chris Chan has the same kind of delusions. And I think all of these guys do to an extent. Like this Dark Side Phil thinks he's like the greatest gamer in the world. And, I mean, it's
I think maybe aside from aside from it being necessary for their kind of role as a lolcow, that they need it to live. Well, Lorne at least does. He needs it. If he
does, yeah.
If he were to actually, it would be at this point in his life, he probably can't. I mean, if there was ever a time that he could get away from that, I think it's past. And, he just doesn't have, but fortunately for him, I guess he doesn't give a shit. And he's perfectly, while he's maybe not a happy person, he should be so depressed and just like, I think that's another thing that that people almost want him to be more, I don't know, sad than he acts. Like his life is so terrible.
Yeah.
And he's done so many terrible things. And in a way, there's a part of me that if he weren't such a reprehensible person, that I would almost envy that it's like, man, wow.
I was just going to say, yeah, that is pretty admirable to be so to have all this shit wrong with you, to be such a shitty person, and yet to still like not be miserable and I mean,
just whistle through the wheat fields.
All of these lolcows, they have the same thing. I mean, they're all none of them are like miserable people. I mean, well, they are, but I mean, like,
but not like you think they should be. Or
they don't think that they don't think they're miserable people. They think they're good people, and it's pretty.
Lorne seems weirdly content to just like live in his piss-covered hovel and get catfished, and like leech off of his mother. Like he doesn't like. Maybe he does have, I don't know, long dark nights of what passes for a soul in his case, where he drinks himself into oblivion and cries about it.
Or maybe that's why he drinks.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's one of many reasons. He also his directionless cannon on the deck, rolling around on the deck rage. But I'm sure those things are kind of intertwined. But I'm gonna have to get going here pretty soon. But
no problem.
But before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you something earlier. Now I finally remembered it.
Okay.
Have you seen any of the Lorne Cornville stuff?
Yes, I have.
So, do you think that quote Casey is just another catfish?
Of course. Of course. I mean, how can she not be?
Yeah, right.
I mean anytime I see him on the phone talking to a girl, I assume it's a catfish.
Yeah, in the middle of the day, right?
Right.
And someone comes to his little sale, and he won't even. It's like the call where the cops come, where quote unquote Nick Bagler did the welfare check. He doesn't even hang up the goddamn phone with her when the cops are there. And has them talk to her, and can't stop saying, "Oh, my girlfriend's on the phone. My girlfriend's on the phone." And when our intrepid host there, shout out to Lorne Cornville, when he goes, he's on the phone the whole time.
Yeah,
he
can't be bothered.
Finds some reason for him to talk to her to like prove that. Yeah.
No, anytime I hear Lorne and the girlfriend in the same sentence, it's a catfish.
Mhm.
I mean, I just can't imagine a real person, you know.
And it's just another like in the 2%, 1% chance that it wasn't, the Casey thing would just be too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
You know, just that it's that she claims her name is Casey, like Casey Morrow. Yeah, no, I mean it has to be, and maybe yeah, if they're if I hope that Casey the cat, if Casey is a catfish, that she's recording some of the calls, and maybe there would be a faint glimmer of hope for some new Lorne content. And I mean, even if it were as boring as some of the later stuff with Ramona became, but even then, I'm sure I would still listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
hopelessly addicted.
Yeah. No. I'm with you, man. And in fact, there is more stuff out there.
Yeah, well, I know there's a lot that I haven't heard because I came late to the game, and I think in some ways it's just, you know, I probably just missed out. But yeah, I always hold out hope that maybe I can get my hands on some of the deep cuts.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, you know what? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely, man. And I'm going to put a link to your channel in the description. So please make sure you subscribe to Rob, because he's got some fucking awesome content on there. You got the song, the what's it, Lorne November or
There's the Counting Crows cover of the Lorne September.
Lorne September. That's it.
My original Roush, my creepcore song, and then just some of the chat log stuff. I think I'm going to do another one of the chat log things, but I've been working on that for a while.
But you have a different spin on the chat log, where you do it as like
in different characters.
Different characters. Yeah. Like you had Lenny and from Mice and Men and Sling Blade.
Carl Childers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely check out Rob's channel, subscribe to Rob's channel, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks again, Rob.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Anytime, my friend. We'll do this again soon.
Looking forward to it.